Hi, how are you? It's been a long time. It's been a month. I just don't know what to say. I don't know how do you start when like you've been gone for so long? I didn't even recognize myself on the camera. I have to check something. Oh my gosh, I got to change that. That's the audio. All right, that looks good. So today is Monday. It's the 15th of May, 2023. The last live stream I did was April 18th. And I've just been gone. And about 2 weeks ago, I tried to just put something out there to let you know that I was okay. I don't know if you can tell there's any physical difference to me. We'll get into that. But I'm alive and I'm here. And, you know, tonight is just like getting back into the swing of things. That's the goal. I don't know how long we're going to run. I don't know how long. I don't know how it's going to go. I really, in a month's time, I almost forgot pretty much everything button-wise on my computer. I don't even know if you can hear my broadcast. Let me see if you can, or if you're supposed to be able to. It says the microphone's working, so that's that. We've got a lot to discuss. And it's just like I don't know where to begin. I guess I should do an introduction. My name is John Shank. I am the founder and managing broker of Deerwood Realty in St. Louis, Missouri. We're a small residential firm, residential realty. We're so small, it's just me. I mean, I have an assistant, but it's just me. And we help people buy homes and sellers sell theirs. At night, I used to do the Deerwood Realty live stream. It used to be on at 9 p.m. Central Time, pretty much Monday through Friday, unless something would come up. But that hasn't been the case since the 18th of April. And so tonight, I mean, I'd like to tell you I'll be on tomorrow. It's Tuesday tomorrow. I have no idea. No idea. I'm just getting back in the swing of things. Now, I mean, there's so much house cleaning to do. I guess the first thing is this. If you're on Rumble, watching me on Rumble, thank you. But if you're annoyed by the spam, I apologize, because I can't moderate the spam on Rumble. Like, I mean, it's just horrid. But I get so many more views on Rumble, so I'm not going to complain about it. Just don't expect it to be like perfect without a bunch of horrible spam. Hopefully they'll get that together. If you're watching at the Deerwood Realty and Friends podcast page, it's active. It's there. You're welcome to do it. And apparently chat has been added. Now, I didn't go and check the chat before I started. I'm hoping that it comes through. I'm going to put a little thing in the chat right now just to see what happens. It won't be on Rumble, sorry. There. Okay. So we can't post comments to Twitter. I was kind of surprised we still have Twitter, to be honest with you, given all the things that have happened. Now look at this. You can even see my books. You can see my Learning Bosnian books right there. Yeah. Sorry about that. I should have fixed that before I started. I don't even know where to start. Well, see, I knew this was going to happen. You put something off, and then you're like, you start to get like nervous about doing a show. And so tonight I'm a little bit nervous. I apologize. I'm doing things with my hands. By the way, look at my hands. I got glue on them. We can talk about that. I'm going to put it on the list of things. I'm writing it down now so I don't forget. So just between you and me, time is going by so fast. Like, I realize it's been a month since I've been chatting on my live stream, but to me, it was like yesterday. I mean, it just goes by so fast. And so we're going to get into that tonight. Obviously, I'm not as smooth as I normally am, and I'm not that smooth normally, so this is probably pretty painful to watch. I apologize. I will get better. Sounds good. Let's get into, I don't even know if I can do this anymore. Let's get into this is, oh, no, I'm yawning. It's good. It's good TV right there. Good yawn. Let me share something. We always used to do this first, and I think it's still relevant. Except I don't like the way that is. I want to do it that way. Now, you may not be able to see that, and I'm sorry. But, like, if I don't, I got to figure out something, because I want to do, like, when we cut the videos for, like, Instagram and stuff and YouTube Shorts, if I don't do it this way, it gets stupid. But I'll work on this. I don't know if I can do anything there. I just want to see if something no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. No, that'd be bad. Okay, so anyway, I don't know if you can read it, but the mortgage rates on a 30-year fixed today are 6.67%. They're up from yesterday when they were 6.55%, an increase of 12 basis points since Friday of last week. You guys know that I've wanted to be at 5.5% forever. And high interest rates aren't helping things. Now, everyone has their own thoughts about how things are going. A couple of things that I'm gonna start with that I don't know how. I'll start with this. Okay, the narrative is there's a couple narratives going around. One, that we had a housing crisis, and that prices were dropping and things were terrible, and that we're on the road to recovery. This is false for St. Louis, the St. Louis area. We never ever had a crisis. This time so far, houses were very difficult to get. In fact, I've put in offers for buyers as recently as last week and not gotten the house because there were multiple offers and they didn't take mine. And I was above asking, of course. So you've got that. There's a narrative that says, like, housing prices will never go down. I don't believe that. It's just a very strange time in the marketplace. I think right now we're searching for direction. There's some houses that I've seen listed that have that would normally have gone within a weekend, and they've still stayed active. And so, yeah. I don't think I put an offer in on a condo about a week ago, and I was talking to the other agent because why not, right? And I said, what do you see in the marketplace? And he said, if everyone's at a 3% mortgage, who's going to move to like a 6 or 7% mortgage? That doesn't make any sense. And I said, that's what I've been saying. It's almost like you've been listening to my live stream or listening to my podcast. He didn't laugh, and he didn't get it because he didn't know who I was, and he didn't know I had one. I just don't know. What I read and what I experience are two different things. For instance, there was a tweet, I don't know if I'm going to get to it, from Lawrence Yoon. He said that there's like 20% of real estate agents aren't going to have a job anymore. But he always writes that the economy is strong and the housing market's strong. So I'm always like, well, if it's so strong, why are we all going to go out of business? Then there's always these tweets that say there's 2 houses, or there's 2 listings. How do I put it? There's 2 agents for every listing available, which is a dumb statistic if you're really looking at it, because, like, we'll help buyers or we'll help sellers. So just because there's not a listing for a real estate agent doesn't mean there's not a buyer for a real estate agent. Right now, if you want to know, I'm net buyers. All I have is buyers. I don't have any sellers. So that's that. Now look, I'm going to get into my notes tonight because I'm going to lean heavily into them because I don't. And, you know, the other thing is I was going to get to a bunch of equipment and I didn't get, I waited and I'm sorry, I'll get it. But I did get the microphone shock mount figured out and I like it. Let me know what you think in the chat or the comments. Yeah. So let's move on. So I just wanted to, I guess I wanted to put it up front that last night in St. Louis we had a flash flood. Now, I don't know if they have flash floods all over the country, but, and I don't know if you know what a flash flood is. I never really paid any attention to it until last night, oddly enough. I feel like I almost should have. The skies opened up at like 9 o'clock. It was Mother's Day. And like, it just rained so much, so fast. We were at my godmother's house and, we just stayed there to avoid the rain. When the rain finished, we were going to go get some food. And, there's Highway 55 in St. Louis, which runs south along the Mississippi River. And as we were driving, first of all, we couldn't get on the highway, which is weird. Second of all, like we saw this car that was like in somebody's front yard and like wrecked. That was weird. Then when we got on the side road, my wife saw a bunch of flooding, which is odd because you don't normally see that. Now, we did end up getting, I mean, like I know the roads in St. Louis pretty well, so we got to where we wanted to go. But, you know, through social media and Facebook, we were seeing, you know, houses were being flooded. I did have one of my buyers call me and say, you know, hey, my basement flooded. You said it would because it's a South City, St. Louis home, and it's all, you know, it's all rock foundation. You told me it was going to leak, and I didn't believe you, and it did. And he's like, well, so you should be happy now. And I was like, I'm not really happy for you, but that worked out. They were able to just vacuum it out. But I guess, like, so you see all these videos of these cars that are just floating around, and it's just crazy. And then this morning I went for a walk, and I went by this condo or this apartment complex. It's close to River de Pere, and for the longest time I've been mad at them because they always put out this sign that says newly renovated units. And then it's like, okay, well, that's cool. But what they don't say is the reason why they're always newly renovated. The reason why they're newly renovated is because it floods there all the time. So the units get flooded and they have to rebuild, you know, they have to redo it, and then they redo it, and it's like, then they wait and it happens again. And so, yeah, that's what happened again. So I was walking by there and there was actually a car that had been moved, you know, 200 feet off to the side. And so I was in a very odd spot, and I'm, you know, this is why I wanted to talk on my live stream about it. Is I don't know if I've always despised the concept of like, we're in it together. No, we're not. I don't want to be associated with you. I don't want to be in this together with you. I don't like that. I don't like companies that take tragedies and use that to their gain on social media. It's weird. I don't even know if we have, like, do we have an agreed upon, like, tragedy anymore, even in the United States? I mean, can we even agree on what a tragedy would be? Sometimes, I mean, I've just seen things in the news. It's like, gosh, that's terrible. And yet, I guess half the country thinks like, oh no, that's totally okay for political reasons. It's like, eh. Anyway, so, you know, I'm the I'm the head honcho at Deerwood Realty, right? And here's this, I'm seeing devastation and with my own eyes. And when I say devastation, I mean these people, you know, it's Sunday night, it's Mother's Day. They probably spent time with their family, minding their own business, and all of a sudden their car is floating down their street. Or water is up past, past like 5 to 7 feet of their house, and they, it's not normal. It's not to be expected. And by the way, like I worry about, have you've seen the Bud Light, situation, possibly. The blowback on that. Now, I have my own thoughts about it that I don't really want to share, but as an organization, you never want to be in that spot. So, but at the same time, this particular time, like I genuinely feel bad for the people that were minding their own business and their cars are floating away and their houses are destroyed and they've got to do all kinds of cleanup and everything. And so I posted on social media, that my thoughts were with those people affected by, and it was sincere. And I believe that I think that the sincerity part is the most important part when you're going to make social media posts about tragedies. And if somebody comes at you, then it just they're just not a very good person. I don't know. I've seen things on social media lately, and I'm just like, wow, that's some crazy stuff. I want to check something. Okay. So, let me get rid of that. So I just wanted to start with that. I'm trying to find where it is in my notes so I don't do it again. Okay. So I can't find it. So I think the first thing is where have I been? Like, why did I miss a whole month of live streaming? Well, I think, honestly, I feel like I kind of got burnt out. And it's kind of a strange thing. I wanted to, you always want to do the perfect show. You always want to have that compelling show that makes people want to watch. You always want to grow your channel, and you want to, you want to have compelling video. And I've been watching my streams, and they were good, but they weren't great. And so I was like, I could do better. And so I'm currently running like 3 or 4 businesses. I don't just do the real estate brokerage. I have other commitments. And like to prepare for a live stream, it takes me at least an hour. And that's like on a good night. On a slow news night, it could take 2 hours. And so now I've got 2 hours in the show and just preparation for an average show. And then I have about an hour after the show where I need to post, all the stuff and rewrite all the descriptions. And so it gets to be a long run. You got maybe, 3 hours in for a 1 hour stream. So that's 4 hours. It's quite a bit of the evening. So how do you get to have a better stream, with like you can't take more time. You don't have more time. And so it was frustrating me. And it's weird, like the growth, it kind of happens on its own. We're not at like a 1 million follower channel. We got like 160 people. I appreciate all of you, but like even while I was gone, I picked up a couple of subscribers. It's not somebody finally sees your stuff and like it and they subscribe, and I appreciate that. But like on the slow days, it was hard to find enough content to really to have something compelling. So it was just frustrating. And so I kind of feel like I got burnt out. And then I went through this situation, and I wanted to kind of go over it with you. You know, I like working on cars, or at least my own cars. And I wouldn't say I'm not a mechanic by any stretch of the imagination, but I watch car shows all night long on YouTube. And then I watch them for a couple reasons. One, to kind of to watch someone else screw up something versus myself. It's a lot cheaper, but yeah. And so my stepdaughter needed her car brakes changed, or brakes and rotors. Now, I wanted to, it's my stepdaughter, I wanted her to have the best brakes possible. And I on my Subaru, I've changed the brakes pads and rotors before, and it wasn't a big deal. And I was more than happy to do the work. And so I started by doing a little research, watched a few YouTube videos, see what I was up against, and I said, I can do this. This is no big deal. So I ordered the brakes and the rotors, the brake pads and the rotors, and I was working. I got to check to see. I got to make sure nobody's in the chat. Okay. I was working on, I was watching and I figured out how to do what I needed to do. And so I ordered the stuff. And so I took one afternoon after a closing of all days. I remember it was a Tuesday. And I just had a closing of a great couple. And I need to reach back out to them. But anyway, I was sitting there and I said, I need to get this done. She needed her car and everything. And so I took a couple of the wheels, I took a couple of the tires off, started working on the front brakes because they're supposed to be the most important, and they are based on the sizing. So I got the wheel off, and I got the caliper bolts off, and I got the caliper bracket off, and I went to go replace the brake pads in the caliper bracket, and when I opened the box, they were too small. And look, I'm not that good of a mechanic to know, I'm not that good of a repair person to know if my brakes, if it was just a different design or something like that, but they clearly didn't fit. And so I took a picture of them and I was like, well, that's a shame. I guess I'll go change the rear brakes and rotors. And so I went to the back of the car and I took off the wheels. I jacked the car up, and when I went to get the caliper bracket off, the nuts were rusted and rounded, so I couldn't get the back ones off either. So I put the front ones, the old brakes, back on the front, put the tires on, and I was disappointed because I was thwarted twice. And I had worked on that all day, and my body was just falling apart. There was just pain in all my joints, and I was miserable. So I went to return the parts, and the auto parts place, it was online. They're like, well, these are the brakes for your car. You're wrong. I'm like, I'm not wrong. These don't fit. And so I took the same brand and I went on Amazon, same brand, different style. And I figured, what the heck? For the rear brakes, I just got a screw extractor from Amazon, bolt extractor, and I figured that might work. So I get all the parts back and I start again. And I was like, I started on the front and, oh no, I started on the back because I backed the car up. I got the tires off. And I wanted to loosen up the calipers and everything, so I did that. Actually, I think I did it wrong. I did the front. I got the fronts all done, And then I moved to the back, and on the first wheel, when I went to take the rotor off, hit it with a hammer, and it wouldn't come off. And I must have spent like 3 hours trying to get that. I went on the other side, hit it with a hammer, came right off. So I was like, well, that's weird. So I waited for my neighbor to get home. Like I was working on other things. We pulled and pulled and pulled, finally got it off. The brake rotor, the emergency brake had come apart before me. It was messed up. I could see the spring in there before I could get it off. And so it was kind of stretching against the drum. And so we needed to get parking brake parts. It took me from like 8 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock at night, or actually 8 o'clock at night. We would go through all this stuff, and I finally get it done. And I go to put the car down, and I missed the lug nuts on the wheel. And so when I put it on the ground, it like shifted, which isn't good. So my wife is scared to death that my stepdaughter is driving this car that's dangerous. I'm like, it's not dangerous. And so it was just a disaster. But in the meantime, my body was just, that night, like I was just almost moaning in pain when I'm trying to sleep. It was just a disaster. And so I thought about it, and I was like, this can't continue. Like, we need to do something about that. So what did I do? Well, I started walking. You say, well, why were you walking? Well, I don't think my body at this age and this fitness level, I don't think I can run. I used to be a long distance runner in high school, fairly decent, not the best, but fairly decent. And I'd stopped in college, and I just didn't think I could run. But I've been looking at things, and like in working on the car, like I could barely get up off the ground. Like I would roll over, and even rolling over, I couldn't get up. And I knew I had to do something, and so I started walking. And the goal, they say, for like good health, and I've been wanting to get a treadmill, and I've been wanting to do all these things, but at the end of the day, I wanted to get started. And so I started walking, and I did the 10,000 steps, and I've been doing that. But I was so out of shape when I started, and I'm still not really in great shape, but I'm getting better. But when I started, I could barely keep my eyes open at night. 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock rolls around, I'm ready for bed, which is crazy. So now I'm finally to the point where when I walk, I'm not exhausted for the whole day. So that's why I was gone for quite some time, is because I just wasn't awake at night. And then on a second thing, I don't know if you've ever had allergies, but the allergies for my eyes were so bad in St. Louis. The allergies were my one eye would just like be cloudy, and I didn't feel like I could, looking in the camera, I didn't feel like I could read anything. My eye just hurt. And that's the truth. The allergy season in St. Louis this year was crazy. In fact, our weather situation is crazy here. We have, we started the year, like things were getting warmer and it was getting nice. And then we had these cold snaps. And so I have these bushes that are just like all eaten up because they got caught like trying to grow new leaves during this fast freeze. And I don't know, it's weird. Like the bugs that we normally have in the yard are gone. We normally have all these mosquitoes. They didn't show up. Now, with the amount of rain we had last night, I suspect we're going to get, into mosquito season now. But anyway, so the allergies, I'm out of shape. I'm burnt out. I'm doing real estate deals. I'm doing the real estate game, but I don't know. It just didn't come together for a stream. And so that's why I've been gone. But then another thing happened. I'm 46 years old, or no, I'm 45 years old. I'm kind of to the point where I know how I think about things, and I know how I don't know, how I've always thought about things, but I've always needed like some sort of inspiration to kind of stay focused, okay? But at the same time, I have to be careful because that inspiration can be so intense that it might be the only thing I focus on at all. And that's what absolutely happened to me. I got involved in a topic that was not a new topic, not something that I was unfamiliar with, but I just got to where I wanted to see every YouTube video. I wanted to work on it every moment of the day. And it was like a moth to a flame. I mean, it was just like I was just focused all the time on this project. And I was, and it's taken about a month for me to figure things out to where I'm content now, and I feel like I can do other things. But I never intended to just step away from the live stream. I never intended to like not do a live stream. I just wasn't able to. And so that's where I've been. That's what's been going on. I'm not sick. I'm not, I'm not depressed. I'm not anything. I just haven't been able to get to the stream. And so it's nice to be with you tonight. Let's talk about some Deerwood Realty news. Now, it's funny. Just, this is the way it is. So I had this guy, I wanted to go over this. I had this guy I was walking and he stopped me and he's like, hey, I need to sell my house. I'm like, well, where are you going to move? And I knew of him, but we weren't like on the best speaking terms. It's like, I need to move. I said, well, where do you need to move? Like where do you think there's value here? I mean, everything's so darn expensive. And I was like, do you want me to send you some listings or something like that? Well, he's an older fellow. He's got a flip phone. He's got no texting ability. And so I would literally, when I was walking, I would send down listings from the neighborhood. Here's what's sold and everything like that. I never heard back from him. I would do it monthly. Never heard back from him. About a week ago, a sign just pops up in his yard, coming soon. So clearly he wasn't using me as his agent because I knew nothing about it. But what I wanted to say is it was disappointing because I lost 2 commissions. He was buying a house and selling that house. So that's a 2 commission deal. And what I wanted to tell you guys is like the question would be, am I bitter about it? And to be honest with you, no, I'm not. The guy's a jerk. I mean, he already listed it too high and now he's going to let it sit. And my opinion is it's better to work with people you get along with. So, I mean, it worked itself out. I just don't like the guy. Didn't like him. He didn't like me. Like, it was just uncomfortable the whole time. And I was just reaching out like, is this something that's happened to you as an agent? Are there just some clients where you just don't click and you don't feel bad about the fact that they're not working with you? I don't know. That's what happened to me. So that was one thing. Like, I'd say it was a kick to the shins for about 5 minutes where I was like, the guy could have said, hey, I'm working with somebody else. And the weird thing was I saw him about 2 days before he listed his house for sale, and I was just going to say hello. And he pretended like I wasn't there. He didn't acknowledge that I was even standing there. So I was like, okay, whatevs. So that's that. Do you remember, like December of 2021, I was on my stream and I had this couple who I helped them find a house, and it took like 2 years, and then they got divorced. It was announced on Facebook, and I was just torn up about it. I was like, oh man, because when you help someone buy a house, it's quite an optimistic thing, right? You're sharing in someone else's joy. They've saved money, or they've got a family, or they've just got something where they're going to buy a house and you're going to be a part of it. And then these people get divorced. And I felt so bad about it. So I reached out to both the husband and the wife, and I was like, I don't want to talk. I mean, we don't have to talk about the divorce, but I just want to let you know that I'm here for you, and I feel bad about the situation. Now, I genuinely felt bad. And you say, well, John, you just wanted the listing. Look, I do list properties. I mean, that is my job. That is how I get paid. So I do care about that. But these people were such kind of close friends and good friends, and good people, that I genuinely just felt bad. And so I used my live stream those times to discuss, like, hey, I feel terrible about this. What should I do? And in true internet fashion, since no one watches my streams, nothing happened. No one helped me. But I was very careful. To just, try to walk through it without being angry. Because, of course, I'm not getting divorced. It's these people getting divorced. And so, sure enough, the house goes up for sale. And, the appreciation that was on this house, they got a steal with me. I did a good job for them. And then I didn't get to list the house for sale. And I was very, very bummed about it. I was like, I understood though. And so, a couple months later, I got in touch with with one of the members of the family, and they're like, hey, help me buy a house. And I'm like, okay. And I never asked him, and I never flamed him, and I never would. It's not who I am. I never got an answer for why I didn't get the listing. It just didn't make any sense, but okay. So then fast forward now another year, and the other person called and said, hey man, I'm ready to find a house. Can you help me? Now, I just want you to know, this is the illustration that I would say, this is why you just don't flame people. You just don't, it's not a question of being professional. In fact, I think it's quite professional to let people know what you're thinking. But, as a real estate agent, over time, you get used to being kicked all the time. Like, bad things always happen. And deals that you're in, listings you don't get. So, it's like I'm kind of used to it. It hurts, but what are you going to do? But anyway, I feel like I was vindicated for that. And so moving on, this past week, I got, I had this odd thing happen, and I wanted to go over it with you. So here's the premise. In real estate, there's this idea that if you do a good job, actually it's not just in real estate, it's in business. If you do a good job for someone, they're going to remember that, and they're going to use you again. Okay? That's the idea. All right, and I'm here to tell you tonight that I don't think that that's even 50% true. And I'll give you two examples. One, I listed this house for a nice lady years ago, and sold it for. It didn't go for over asking, but it was a pretty terrible market at the time. There were some issues with the house, but we did end up selling it, and with that deal, we stayed in touch, and we even went out afterwards with some friends, and it was just a good time. And about 2 years later, she listed her house, and I didn't get that listing, and I was like, the hell, I didn't get the listing. Well, her son-in-law got a real estate license. What is she going to do? Use me over her son-in-law? No. It just doesn't work that way. So it doesn't matter how good of a job you do. Sometimes you don't get the listing. I have to cough. Sorry about that. I haven't talked this long in a while, and my voice is going. But to expound on this, you may do a great job for someone, and they aren't going to use you again. I had these two guys, and their family member had passed away, and they needed to sell this house. And over the course of about 6 months, I worked with them to help get the house fixed up. I gave them the names of contractors, and told them what they should fix. They were good fellows, and we sold the house for, I think, $25,000 over asking at the end of the day. It was a great deal. But I get a text from one of the fellows the other day, and he's like, "My brother's got his house on the market. If you know anybody that's interested in selling, please, let him know." And I'm like, "Why didn't I get the listing?" He's like, "Well, you have to take that up with my brother." And I was like, I get that. I get the family dynamics thing, but I had done what I thought to be a great job with that person. And you know what? I don't know. I don't know what I did wrong. I really don't. But I didn't get that listing either. And that was a double. That was two. They were going to buy. He was buying something and selling something. So it just goes to show that this idea that you think, you do a good job and somebody's going to remember, or it doesn't happen all the time. And I just wanted to point out, I don't hold anything against the guy. He wants to list it with somebody else. It's on him. But that's just what I learned. Just wanted to share it if it ever helps you. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about tonight is like time is flying by. I don't know if it's just me. I don't know if it's because I'm getting older, but time is just flying by. Like I can remember when I was a kid, we drove to Washington, D.C. from St. Louis, Missouri, and there was no cell phone and there was no iPad or anything. I just sat in the car and I was just miserable, and it wouldn't stop. Like, it was just the longest ride ever. And now, honestly, there are days when I wake up and it seems like when my head hits the pillow, it's like, not only what did I get done, but what happened in the day. And so I always, because I'm doing so many different things, I'm always cognizant of how what I'm doing. I need to make sure that whatever it is, it can't be a time suck. So for instance, the website, I cannot fix the website, because to go down that rabbit hole will take hours, and I don't have hours. And so I just wanted to go over today, because this is kind of the way things are right now. I got a text from one of my former clients, and she said, "Hey, did we get an occupancy permit for this house?" And I said, well, to get an occupancy permit for this particular municipality, there's St. Louis County, and then there's 80 different municipalities within St. Louis County. Some of them you use the St. Louis County inspection. Some of them you use a different municipality inspection. It's a pain in the butt. I don't know if it's that way in the rest of the country, but I think it's probably not. I think they're probably uniform for the counties. Anyway, I said, so to get an occupancy permit, you need to have a inspection. So what happens is the inspector comes out you pay for the county, you pay for the municipality, around $90 usually. They come out and they say, you need to fix these things. You fix them, and then you get your permit. But you just get the past occupancy. You don't get the permit, because the new owners have to go to the courthouse or the city hall or the county and get the actual permit put in their name. Well, I was working with these buyers. We got the house. I knew that there was a past occupancy inspection, because when I got the private inspection report back from my inspector, there were things on there that the municipality inspector missed that just shocked me. For instance, we almost always get flagged for flexible drains in sinks and vanities. You're not allowed to have flexible drains. They sell them at Home Depot, so people buy them. They're a lot easier to use. But the argument is they say that there's bacteria that grows in these things. And so anyway, that was one of the things. And I knew the things on the inspection. The back lock for the back door had a double key, so it had a key on the outside and the key on the inside to turn the. Can't have that. Fire hazard. And they didn't flag that. But when I went to go look through my paperwork, I did not have a copy of the past occupancy inspection. Now, it didn't help. My client is a lawyer. The buyer is a lawyer. And so I don't really want to get sued. So I was like, I called the county, or I called the municipality. I said, hey, hey, can I get the copy of the past inspection? And actually, I didn't get that far. I got to voicemail, and they said, we will get back to you within 72 hours of your call. And it's like, this is so stupid. Very unhelpful. And so then I talked to the listing agent. I said, I know you guys got an inspection, but I do not have it. Do you have it? And he said, sure, here it is. He sent me an email right away. But I called him, and I got voicemail, so I worked through chat. But that took like 2 hours of my time today. And you may say, well, that's stupid. Why did you let that happen? Well, because I felt it important for my buyer to have this occupancy permit. And then finally, I have a pond in my backyard. I put it in like 2 years ago. In fact, I liked it so much, I put in another pond next to the pond. And things were going well. I was growing, I've got Japanese snails, and they like clean off the sides. I've got some water lilies that are growing, and it's a real nice event. It's a real nice thing to have. And unfortunately, over the weekend, I went out, and it was all like flooded, or not flooded, it was all like empty. And so I put more water in it and emptied again. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? Well, I found out there's a hole in my pond, which I didn't think could happen, but apparently it does. So like today, for like 2 hours, I'm out there trying to fix this hole in my pond. So between that, the walking, the occupancy permit, and streaming, I mean, like, my day's gone. It's crazy. So, there. This is all that's gone on for me in Deerwood Realty in the past month that I've been gone. So, let's move on. My transition's not very good tonight. I apologize. Let's go to the Twitter. Let's see the things. Let's talk about some stuff. We'll talk about this really weird situation, and then we'll close things down for the night. But let me figure out how to do. Okay, I just have to go here. So this is the first tweet for tonight. It's from the Kobayashi letter. The supply of new homes for sale is down nearly 30% since September of 2022. Millions of homeowners are locked in sub 3% mortgages and do not want to sell. In result, rapidly rising rates have barely made a dent in the housing market. Soon the Fed will begin cutting rates again. Once mortgage rates begin to pull back again, the housing market may be setting up for another run higher. As long as mortgage rates are above 3%, supply is likely to remain tight. The bubble gets bigger. What do you think? Do you believe that? Right now, I'm seeing people hold off because they don't want to overpay and they feel like the economy's not doing that well. They're starting to see the layoffs. The inflation has started to kind of take away. Plus, like the tax returns came out last month, so there was some activity there, but right now it's like it's not that great. So I don't see the bubble getting bigger in real estate. I think that's what I would call the devil's bargain. Like, the Fed is not responsible to anyone. The Fed will say that it's not their fault that they caused the recession. They might be right. I mean, spending is out of control. They don't control spending. So they do control cheap money, though. And they were the ones that were giving us cheap money throughout the pandemic. So I do blame them, ultimately. The spending wasn't helping, but anyway, I'm just curious what you think. Do you really think we're going to have another housing bubble before the first housing bubble pops? Man, that would suck. Then I saw this. I thought this was interesting. It says today, Adele Scalia and I learned that a real estate agent we worked with a few years ago is currently serving a jail sentence for fraud. Oh my gosh. It says, this news was not surprising. Here's some text Adele sent him about the money he owed us. She had him sussed out. Now, I don't understand how, like, for me, I very seldom ever have any of my clients' money except for the down payment, and that goes to the title company within 10 days usually of the contract. So let's see what was written. It says, we still haven't received any check, which if it were reissued and sent last week, would have arrived last week. We live in Virginia. It doesn't have far to go. Needless to say, this whole situation is frustrating and suspect to say the very least, especially because I have no idea why you would be holding the deposit for a house in the first place. Find a way to send us the check immediately. This is getting ridiculous. I 100% agree. I don't know what's going on. Again, I don't touch any of the money. Like I get the escrow check and I literally have 3 days from contract acceptance to get it to the title company. So that doesn't make any sense. So this is odd. And then she writes again. Oh, did I do that? So that's what it was. It just popped up twice. So, okay, here we go. It says, refer us to the realtor who represents us to discuss the money that you are holding for me. Please tell me how that makes any sense. We are dealing with you because you have the money. If you didn't, we would have nothing to deal with you about. As for your holding the deposit, we've spoken to other landlords and our realtor about it, and they all have no idea how or why you're holding the money. None. The landlord holds the money. That's what every last one of them says. So yes, I'm accusing you of, at the very least, being incompetent. At the very worst, much more. And yes, I want our money right away, and I would love a tracking number. I don't know why you would think you're dealing with idiots here. We are not, and we are not fooled. Now, this gives us some insight. So this is clearly a security deposit. So it could be the guy the realtor is a property manager and holding the security deposit, but it's not smart as an agent to get involved in this type of thing. I mean, like if you got a check, you just need to give it to the person that's supposed to go to. Like, you're not supposed to hold the check. Don't do that. That's a bad plan. Oh my gosh. All right, well, found that out. Next, had a fascinating story here. I don't know if you saw this. This was the 11th. Let me check and make sure that it's on there for you. It stops when I go there, but it says, from Raw News Alerts, a dead body has been found inside the freezer of an Arby's restaurant. Yeah. Currently, a number of law enforcement and other agencies are on the scene after a dead body was discovered and have been found inside of a freezer in Arby's restaurant in New Iberia, Louisiana. This evening, the Arby's restaurant has been closed as police are investigating the incident. Now, I don't want a roast beef sandwich from a restaurant where there's a dead person in the freezer. Now, I don't feel like that makes me a bad person. And the way this is presented here, there's so many more questions than answers. Some of the questions that I have are, one, like, how many people knew that there was a dead body in the freezer at the Arby's? That's one. The second question I would have is, like, how did the body get into the freezer? Another question, did the person that's in the freezer work for Arby's? I worked at Subway when I was 16, and we had a walk-in freezer. If the walk-in freezer closed behind you, it was always scary because they're big metal walls and locks. But you were required by code to have a double, like the door was required to be able to be opened from the inside. But could the person have frozen to death in the Arby's? Which you wouldn't think would happen nowadays because they've got phones but anyway, I don't feel better. Like, if I were in Louisiana, I wouldn't feel better today going to the same Arby's where there was a dead person in the Arby's the day before. I just don't like, by the way, one of the biggest, problems I have with social media and like just my mentality is, I think we look for the good in social media in the sense like I like to funny tweets. I don't know what to make of like real estate news and then Arby's is a dead body in the freezer in Louisiana. Anyway, this is a tweet from Unusual Whales. It says about 67% of millennials who want to own a home at some point in their lives have no money saved for a down payment, and 18% have less than $10,000 per Bloomberg. I would just like to say I don't think that this is a millennial problem. Like I refuse to take a whole group of people and say, oh yeah, that's just a problem that you have. Because I think unfairly people try to gain some sort of insight and to say, well, millennials are lazy or they stereotype these. It's just not worth it to me. I think times are tough for quite a few people. If you look at credit card debt, I mean, that's not great. Not great. So anyway, I don't know what you think about that. Put it in the comments or put it in the chat. We might talk about it. So now we're going to transition again. This is the last thing we're going to talk about tonight. And I want to frame it a certain way. And that is, so I'm a real estate agent. You know this, because I say it all the time. But it's not unusual that buyers will text me all hours of the day and night, asking me questions about stuff they see in the news or policy decisions. And oftentimes I don't know, I've not seen the news before they have sent it to me, so I don't have a way to respond. But what happened in this particular case is kind of, I would say, endemic or kind of the way things go now. And I wanted to go through it because even as a professional, things get very, very odd. Okay, so here we go. All right, so, and this is kind of time oriented. So this is from Newsweek and it's from 4/21. So about 3 days after I quit live streaming for a while. And it says, Biden raises costs for home buyers with good credit to help risky borrowers. So now I got a text that night from one of my buyers and they said, is this going to cause me to spend more on my mortgage? I thought to myself, what kind of gobbledygook is this? Why do you mean you're going to charge good, less risky home buyers more money than more risky home buyers? That doesn't make any sense. Like, it's already hard enough to qualify someone like with a bad credit score now. It just doesn't make any sense. So it says home buyers with good credit scores will soon be facing higher mortgage fees as the Biden administration seeks to close the racial homeownership gap and get more first-time and low-income buyers through the door. Now, you can laud the desire to help groups of people get homes. Like, thank you for trying. But there are certain ways to do that that shouldn't incite a terrible response. I mean, I got a text that night, like, how much is this going to cost me? I'm like, I don't know. And it says a new federal rule will raise the monthly mortgage payments of buyers with good credit scores by over $60 a month, while riskier borrowers will get more favorable terms because their fees will be reduced. Well, that doesn't seem right. I don't know. It doesn't seem right to me. Starting in May, the current structure of the loan level price adjustment matrix will be upended by the Federal Housing Finance Agency in the hope of addressing housing affordability challenges in the U.S. The most bizarre thing that I see is the Fed is the one that caused this problem of home affordability, and yet they don't use the Fed to fix it by raising rates like they are now. They try to do these programs like, if somebody doesn't have enough money to buy a house, they don't have enough money to buy a house, they don't have enough income. Making a loan cheaper doesn't help them with the income problem they need to get the loan. It says, but there have been complaints that the rule change is unfair and potentially ineffective. It says in the short term, this may increase home ownership among the targeted group, but I'm afraid it could decrease home ownership amongst the middle class. Jerry Howard, CEO of the National Association of Home Builders, told Newsweek, I'm not sure that we're not robbing Peter to pay Paul here. Only about 25% of home buyers with Federal Housing Administration loans are people of color, according to the White House. But, here's a dirty little secret. Not everyone has an FHA loan. Not everybody wants an FHA loan. We can go what's called conventional, which has nothing to do with the federal government other than it has to conform to the lending standards so that they can sell and package these loans and have them invested by banks so that they can collapse because the interest on the payments are higher than when they bought the loans. But, let's pretend that's not true. Okay. It says Black and Hispanic people on average have fewer savings to use as a down payment on a home and tend to have lower credit scores, according to David Stevens, former CEO of the Mortgage Bankers Association, a former FHA commissioner during the Obama administration. The current policy is being rolled out by the FHFA. I get very uncomfortable when we start talking about race and we talk about Black and Hispanic people. We don't talk about Asian people. Why is that? I'm just saying, and what groups, it's a bad way to go to talk about like this stuff. And so it said, he told Newsweek that this can be attributed to factors like distrust in the banking system or being a first generation American. Okay, well, I have distrust in the banking system. I was probably white as you can be. A first generation American, seems like it just seems wrong. He said, he added that the low credit scores can be a significant barrier to home ownership. But you know what? Income is the significant barrier to home ownership. If you don't have income, you can't buy a home. Okay, fix the income problem, everyone can have a house. It says, but in order for it's not the loan. It's not the cost of the loan that's the problem here. It says, but in order for the FHFA to close the gap by bringing down LLPAs for those borrowers, the agency will compensate for the reduction in borrowing fees by raising the LLPAs of borrowers with higher credit scores who tend to be white. Now, see, I'm not introducing race into this. This article is introducing race into it. Very, very not good topic to deal with. It says the average credit score in white communities was 727 in 2021 compared to a 667 in Hispanic communities and 627 in Black communities, according to the data and analyzed by FinMasters, a personal finance blog. So that's a little suspect. Who do we know about what do we know about FinMasters? What's their agenda? And then what are we talking about? White communities and Black communities, Hispanic? It's just not good. It says the effort to get more low-income Americans and Americans of color into home ownership is essentially being subsidized by borrowers who have better credit scores and can contribute more to their down payment. Now look, if you're a low-income American, you're going to have trouble getting a house. So the government should go work on how to get them to have more income. That's the way it should go. You want to buy a house to get more income. Don't mess with the loan. That doesn't make any sense. This Brodinsky says, while the plan was designed to help people who have historically faced obstacles to home ownership, it comes at the cost of negatively affecting buyers who worked hard to save enough money for a larger down payment and maintain a strong credit rating, especially since those buyers can be of all demographics. This is true, but I don't even like this. Look, the people that are at Arby's down there in Louisiana where they have the dead body, like those people are working hard. Working hard and making money are two different things. Okay? So I don't, this whole thing is weird. It says the new rule unfairly penalizes Americans for having good credit and rewards those who accrue debt and don't pay their bills with cheaper loans. Now, that's not nice. GOP Representative Michael Lawler of New York told Newsweek, the way to expand access to housing isn't to reward bad credit, it's to bring down inflation, reduce property taxes, cut energy costs, and invest in critical infrastructure. No, it's not. No, if people make more money, they'll be able to afford a house. How do you get people to make more money? Well, that gets into other topics, and I don't want to really broach that, but it's not a good thing. It says, although the new rule, which takes effect May 1st, is designed to assist low-income and minority borrowers by encouraging home ownership, industry experts have expressed concern that the plan fails to meet that goal. Skepticism, you say. Stevens says that while the generational limitations on home ownership among racial groups in the U.S. need to be addressed, I'm okay with that. FHFA Director Sandra Thompson's actions weren't enough to lower borrowing costs to the point where it will make a difference. That's kind of true. We just went through this completely convoluted discipline around risk-based pricing in the hopes of accomplishing something that isn't going to be accomplished. However, in a statement shared with Newsweek, the FHFA defended the changes. It called the recalibration of its pricing framework minimal and stressed that the agency's goal of making sure that the government-sponsored enterprises fulfill their role in any market condition. But former National Economic Council Director Larry Kudlow said these GSEs have never penalized people who didn't need government programs to help them own homes, calling the Biden administration's new rule a middle-class tax hike. We learned the hard way in 2008 that if you can't afford a home, just getting a subsidy one time to get a mortgage, you won't be able to carry it. A spokesman for the National Association of Realtors told Newsweek that a GSE could still incentivize homeowners without punishing others and stressed that such a move is especially needed at a time when there is limited affordable housing in all areas of the market. National Association of Realtors urges the FHFA to eliminate the fee increase on strong credit borrowers. Days later, Thompson addressed the changes in April 25th press release, calling it a misconception that a higher credit score borrowers were being charged more, so lower credit scored borrowers could pay less. She said that the updated fees do not represent pure decreases or increases, and that the new rule was targeting borrowers with lower incomes, not lower credit scores. It says many borrowers with high credit scores or low down payments will see their fees decrease or remain flat. Some mistakenly assume that the prior pricing framework was somehow perfectly calibrated to risk, despite many years passing since that framework was reviewed comprehensively. The fees associated with a borrower's credit score and down payment will now be better aligned with the expected long-term financial performances of those mortgages relative to their risk. Now, this is what she's saying. Newsweek reached out to the White House for comment via email. The timing of the upcoming LLPA changes is also not ideal given the spring buying season and low inventory, an MBA spokesperson told Newsweek. But the MBA is more concerned about another mortgage change, the addition of an LLPA for loans with debt-to-income ratio greater than 40%, which Brodinski stretches off on a moving target. The DTI is calculated by taking a person's monthly debts, including minimum payments on credit cards and loans, and dividing that by the individual income. The result is used to assess a person's ability to make necessary monthly payments on a loan. In a March 15th statement, MBA President and CEO Bob Brooksmith warned that because the DTI often fluctuates throughout the mortgage application and underwriting process, the new fees will further vary those estimates, thus increasing compliance costs and confusing borrowers. That is true. That is a mess. It says it makes a no-win situation, especially because the borrower will feel that they were taken advantage of by the lender due to these changed circumstances. After the MBA, Mortgage Bankers Association, asked the FHFA to remove the DTI adjustment, the agency delayed the DTI ratio-based fee to August 1st, but the MBA expressed disappointment the FHFA is not considering alternatives to the new fee, which simply are not workable for lenders and borrowers alike. Stevens agrees and said this would just make things really difficult for the lending community and for potential homebuyers, adding that he's hopeful Thompson will gut the adjustment before it goes into effect during the summer. So So this is what we see, right? This is the news. It says that you're borrowing, you're taking from people that have good credit and you're giving to people that have bad credit. That's not right. It's not right, right? So here's a tweet from Patrick Bet David, who's all over the place lately. It says, another dumb idea just passed. They think having a 740 credit score means your risk. I know many hardworking people with 740 plus credit score that can barely make it. They work hard. They pay their bills on time. They don't overextend themselves. Yet the law punishes the responsible and rewards the irresponsible. To the responsible ones, you keep leading the way. I blank you for choosing hard instead of easy. Salute you. I think that's what that says. Short term, it's annoying. Long term, you'll win. It says, again, new mortgage fee spark controversy. Mortgage fee at 740 credit before 1750, now 3,062. All right. So the news says that this is coming. Okay? And the organization that's starting the program or that's adjusting the program says, no, you've got it wrong. It doesn't seem like you got it wrong, but you've got it wrong. So then this comes out here. Now I'm like, so when somebody's asking me about this, I don't really know because it doesn't make any sense. It's not really a good spot in the lending. And so it says your social media feed right now is probably abuzz with claims that the FHFA's new loan level pricing adjustments on conventional mortgages favor buyers with bad credit over buyers with great credit. Now, I got 2 emails from my realtors associations that I belong to, the realtor boards. I belong to 3 of them. 2 of them sent me emails with this pretty much exact same writing. It says a 620 FICO score gets a 1.75% fee discount on a 740 FICO score pays a 1% fee, reads one screenshot from a Fox News segment making the rounds on social. That's one I saw. Here's the thing that's not true. It's not. Oh, enlighten me. It says we're going to break down the FHFA's latest loan level pricing adjustments, most of which are already in effect after being announced in January. Let's start with the basic. The pricing grid contains credit bands that correspond with upfront fees based on the mortgage project, loan-to-value ratio, occupancy, etc. Here's the current model. As you can see, the grid tops off at 740 credit score, meaning anyone with a FICO score of 740 would pay the same rate on fees as someone with a score of 780. Under the current model, risk-based pricing has been consistent. Generally speaking, the lower credit score and the higher the loan-to-value, the higher the upfront fee to mitigate the risk. The new model tweaks the risk-based pricing formula in significant ways. Here's the new pricing matrix on purchase loans, which goes into effect May 1st, but practically speaking has been in place for more than a month. It says in the paragraphs, it said, this isn't the grid the GSE used, but it does show where changes are. Major props to Matthew Graham of Mortgage News Daily for creating this colored chart. He said, there are new credit bands beyond the 740. You'll also notice the FHFA has increased fees on higher credit scores and lower LTVs. At the same time, the FHFA has lowered fees for borrowers with lower credit scores, full stop. Let's get one important thing out of the way. FICO borrowers with lower scores are not getting better rates than higher FICO borrowers. If you have better credit, you'll pay less than someone with worse credit. But there are some key changes that amount to cross-subsidy of sorts. Well, this is weird. It says buyers with credit scores between 680 and 779 with down payments between 10 and 24% will see a fee increase of between 0.13 and 0.75. On the other side, first-time home buyers with lower moderate household income pay no added fees whatsoever, and borrowers who put less than 5% down across all FICO scores will benefit. Now we're getting subsidies for paying less than 20% down. Well, what do you think is going to happen there? It says this chart doesn't show it, but consumers who see the largest fee increases are those seeking a cash-out refinance, where 60% of the population analyzed by Experian have experienced higher fees with an average increase of 55 basis points. Rebecca Richardson, a loan officer at UMortgage, had a smart take on the changes. Let's look at her example in which the sales price of a home is $400,000. The scenarios are credit scores of 740, 700, and 660, with corresponding down payments of 3, 5, 10, 15, and 20. People with great credit are generally not getting penalized, nor are they subsidizing low credit score buyers. And that's primarily because people who were in the down payment cheat code zone where they were putting more than 15% down but less than 20 had their terms subsidized by cheap mortgage insurance policies, which basically gave them the same terms as somebody who's putting 25% down. To me, these changes are more about bringing things in line with where the actual risk is based off of the down payment. All right, but why is the FHFA doing this? The pricing change is in line with the Biden administration's stated mission to provide housing financing opportunities to first-time homebuyers with lower credit scores and those in underserved communities. Terrible disaster. They did that in 2008, and it was just a joke. There's always going to be winners and losers when the FHFA decided to change the pricing matrix. In this case, a portion of good but not outstanding credit borrowers will receive a bit of a shock, a couple $1,000s worth in some cases. Now, so this is just saying this is absolutely true, but they put it at the bottom when the whole article is that it's not true. It says, I think the FHFA is making a calculation that better credit borrowers will still buy the home despite an increase in upfront fees and have enough skin in the game that the risk isn't that high. At the same time, a couple $1,000s could be the difference between a buyer with a lower credit score achieving home ownership or not. Well, yes, but they should be buying a lower priced home. But should the policy change come in at the expense of those who are doing the things the right way? As James Duncan, director at marketing at Thrive Mortgage, put it, it's a fair question. This is a major change for the industry and setting a precedent of moving away from pure risk-based model. Even the agency disagrees with that interpretation. Well, that's just it. Like, everyone's saying that this is exactly what you're doing, and you're saying it's not what you're doing. And then you put out a statement that says, look, this isn't true. And it's like, I think it is. Everyone acknowledges that the GSCs need to be better capitalized, but this policy would seem to hurt middle-class borrowers and aim to benefit those who are more likely to be in the FHA category. We'll know pretty soon if this is a policy failure. Well, this is where it got me, is when people started sending me emails telling me that what I'm seeing is not true, and then they explain it, and their explanation makes it absolutely true. I even put on Twitter, I was like, does anybody know if this is like partially true? What's going on? Well, it turns out, I guess it was true. FHFA rescinds controversial DTI. Says, I don't get to read it because they locked it out of me. But anyway, it says the Federal Housing Finance Agency on Wednesday announced it would rescind the controversial loan level pricing adjustment for conventional borrowers with debt to income levels at or above 40%. So I guess it did matter. I guess it was real. Can't read you the articles because it's locked. I don't really want to find another one. What do you think? I mean, that's what I deal with every day. I have no idea. I can't help my buyers and sellers when I don't have the information that I need. Some people would say, well, that's a mortgage problem. You have to worry about that. You're a real estate agent. No, I got to worry about it because, believe it or not, most of my buyers that I meet talk to a real estate agent before they even talk to a lender. Anyway, I think we had a good show tonight. I'm going to head on out. I can't promise you I'll be back tomorrow night. I enjoyed the show tonight. I hope you enjoyed it too. I can see the views on Rumble are iffy. I don't know what they're going to be on YouTube. I'm going to change, obviously, kind of the description and title to make it more close to what we talked about tonight. But I just want to say thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and I will catch you on the next one. Good night.